I left California, went back to Cleveland. I left my girlfriend right there in California in an apartment. She didn't know where I was. I was gone out the Navy. And she like, where did you go? So I knew early on what was going on in my head, but she didn't know. She found out, this is my ex. She just found out last year about my narcissism. And now she starts thinking about, I remember this, I remember that. You were multi-detected.
Putting all the pieces together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 30 some years later. And so that's where my diagnosis started. I came back in the Navy, and then I started acting and reacting and performing as a narcissist, but I knew, but nobody else knew, and I'm not going to tell anybody. And so I was going through women, very promiscuous, very risky, very dangerous, very spontaneous. I had all of those, everything. I was very vindictive, very manipulative, grandiose mindset. I was ghosting. So people talk about ghosting now. I was doing that back in the 80s. They talk about the love bombing. I was doing it in the 80s. They talk about the silent treatment. I was doing that in the 80s. I gave the silent treatment to my wife. I gave silent treatment to my children. And so, yeah, and then all of a sudden, last year, there's been women in my life that have always put me on a spiritual path, but I was always fighting. Like, I don't want to believe in God because the devil made me feel good about having all these women, being a woman, being rewarded, and being greedy, being promiscuous. So a lady said, Leon, it's going to always be two women that's going to get you straight. And I was like, well, whatever. But it's been two women. And they always come with different things. And so I started listening in my 40s. And so one lady told me to write a book about narcissism. And I was like, okay, I did it, right? And it'll be out in December. And another lady said, Leon, you need to start doing videos about narcissism. I was like, okay, I did it. So, don't get me wrong, there's been men in my life too, but the women are connected to God.
Yeah.
And they connect me to God through them. And so here I am talking about narcissism.
You can see the big picture of the mission that God has you on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here I am talking about narcissism because of two women, two exes. And they knew me quite well. They would probably never date me again. They stayed. Yeah. We're cool. One of them will never talk to me again. One of them still talks to me, but she's like, Leon, you by far the most difficult relationship I ever had. And at first I was offended and like, nah, yeah, I'm good. I was difficult because you can't get to my heart. I don't love you. I like you, but I don't know how to love you. You're still around. So I became very, very self-centered, very egotistical. So that's how I started.
A narcissist acts with a hardened heart. So what is a hardened heart? When something is hard, it cracks rather than flexes. This extreme toughness ends up becoming its fatal flaw. Its longevity actually increases its susceptibility to its breakdown. A hard heart is a prideful heart. The narcissistic heart is hardened against pain and disappointment. It has learned to deflect attacks. It has learned to stay apart. His hardened heart is misunderstanding, unrepentant, unsympathetic, judgmental, unforgiving, and resentful. The narcissist suffers from a hardened heart, lacks empathy, and the ability to love.